As Tottenham are linked with more exciting wide forwards, rumours I've heard suggest that we may be about to announce a brilliant Bulldog number 9 signing to compete with Dominic Solanke. Meanwhile, the Don, Fabrizio Romano, has spoken out on what he's heard about the latest comings and goings from White Hart Lane, and I'll bring you more of my thoughts on those brilliant Thomas Frank quotes from his first day at Hotspur Way, as well as the latest Premier League transfer news. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening wherever you are. If you're on YouTube, please do give this video a like. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber for daily Premier League transfer news, always starting, of course, with my team, Tottenham Hotspur. And I believe it's the last day of voting for the Spurs Kings TV YouTube Content Creators Award. The link is in the description box below. If you like what I do, please do go there and give me a vote in the categories that I've been nominated for. Thank you so much for your support. Let's get going with some of that latest transfer news. And Richard Rios is a man who has been on Tottenham's list for a while, and the rumours keep circling again. He's the Palmeiras central midfielder, also now interesting Newcastle, as well as Crystal Palace apparently as well. Palmeiras apparently not in a hurry to sell and would be looking for at least £25 million. He does have a release clause, I think, of about £60 million, but that's a contractual obligation. I don't think it would go up anywhere near as that. He's a fundamental player in the engine room at Palmeiras, a modern box-to-box midfielder. His profile shows high progressive carries, successful take-ons, combined with solid defensive metrics in clearances, though his passing accuracy could improve. Although I imagine that would improve with better players around him. Fans at Palmeiras point out his rise as a really, really good buy for them. They bought him in March, I think, 2023, and he's praised for his defensive work, his dribbling, and constant improvement. So really could be a player that could help fill that hole in the number 6 department for Spurs, especially if Yves Bissouma does end up leaving for Fenerbahce, as some of the reports suggest. Richard Rios, be excellent value. He's a big guy. He pressures, he dribbles forward, he thrives in transitions, which I think will be something massively important under Thomas Frank, and he's incredibly competitive. He did sign a recent extension to his contract until 2028, and that is where that release clause of 60 million came in. But he does want to play in Europe, and that is a reason why clubs are sniffing around him. So keep an eye on him. And of course, Palmeiras are playing at the Club World Cup. So go and have a look at Richard Rios if you're kind of willing to watch any of that dross tournament. Other reports say Spurs are still interested in the Monaco right back Vanderson. And according to some reports over in France, are in the best position to sign him. He has become one of Ligue 1's most reliable right backs since joining them. He's only 23 years old, so right within the market of Tottenham's transfer strategy, and he's developed significantly since signing for them from Gremio back in 2022 for 11 million. In the last season, he made 28 appearances in Ligue 1. 23 of those were starts, scored once, 3 assists, which is pretty good from fullback. He also played a key role in Monaco's European campaign, featuring 9 Champions League matches, where he added another assist and maintained a pass accuracy over 78%. He's an energetic fullback, well-rounded. He's disciplined defensively, which will be important for Thomas Frank. Consistently wins duels and a strong tackler. He provides width on the flank offensively. He loves an overlap. And he has a willingness to carry the ball and create chances in transition, as I mentioned. Known for his stamina and athleticism and his pace. He's hit peak speeds above 33 kilometers an hour, apparently. Apparently still room for growth in his passing and crossing, but has a high work rate and will be willing to be coached. So all things that do work with Thomas Frank. He's been on our list before, Vanderson, and you can see, can't you now, the kind of alignment with the kind of data-driven approach of Tottenham under Johan Lang, and how Thomas Frank will really grab hold of that. So he's interesting. Spurs also. Antonio Conte at Napoli sniffing around him as well. A player on the rise, and he's been on Tottenham's list for a long time now, so one that could potentially happen. A new link yesterday, Evan Guesson from Nice. Seen as one of Ligue 1's most improved forwards during the past season, 23 years old. He scored 12 goals and provided 9 assists across all competitions. In the league alone, he featured in over 30 matches, starting regularly and proving pivotal to Nice's attacking output. He's a product of their academy, He's kind of known for his physical presence and good technique, strong in the air and good hold-up play. So you could see why Tottenham would be sniffing around him as a potential rotation option for Dominic Solanke as well. A good link-up play, good movement off the ball, and his dual success rate is something that isn't quite at the top of his game as yet, but he could improve on, along with his passing and off-the-ball work rate, which are really good data and stats-wise. He's also, even though he played in the French youth teams, he's recently switched to playing for the Ivory Coast full international team and has 9 caps. His contract runs until 2028, so only a couple of years, or 3 years, something that Tottenham could try and bring the fee down based on, of course, Daniel Levy will be in charge of any negotiations. So that's what you would expect. So keep an eye on him as well. Although, as I mentioned in the opening, he is not the number 9 that I'm expecting to be announced for Spurs quite soon. I've just heard some ITK stuff. I'll get into that in a minute. Meanwhile, Tottenham are still keen on opening negotiations for Xavi Simons. This is a player that a lot of Spurs fans are interested in. It's not instead of a right winger, but alongside it. So the Semenyo, Mbeumo and Kudus rumours would not be affected by a potential move for Xavi Simons, but we are competing with Manchester United, Arsenal and Newcastle for his signature, and Leipzig want 70 million euros for him. That's according to Bild. The Kudus links are that Tottenham are apparently willing to test the waters with a £50 million bid for the West Ham player. That's not one that I see coming off. And the player that I think might come off, though, is Rennes striker Callum Wendo, who I've spoken about before, and we are confident of driving the deal down to about 25 million euros for the player, who dragged Rennes into the Champions League in their best ever season last year. Some reports are that Tottenham are now out of the race for Bryan Mbeumo. They see it as almost impossible to overtake Manchester United in the bid for him at this stage. So it'll be whether Man United can afford to go up to what Tottenham bid or whether they keep trying to drive it down. Now, Fabrizio Romano was on the Give Me Sport YouTube channel last night, and he said the following, which I think is very positive news about Christian Romero. He says it's going to be very difficult for anyone to pry Christian Romero away from Spurs this summer. Daniel Levy wants to keep the player at the club, and Thomas Frank sees him as a crucial part of the squad, both technically and in terms of leadership, which is music to my ears, because I've been saying for a while now, I wouldn't mind, especially if Sonny leaves, for Christian Romero to be promoted into the captaincy role and to be told, you can take this club by the scruff of the neck and really bring us up by its bootstraps. I think he would play more games in that instance. I think he would take responsibility and show more concentration. Fabrizio Romano also said that nothing is yet decided on the future of Son Heung-min, especially on the players' side. He still has to speak to Thomas Frank, who of course only had his first day at Hotspur away yesterday, and then make a decision. It does say, Fabrizio Romano did say though, if Ange Postecoglou had remained as Spurs manager, Son Heung-min was always going to stay at the club. And there is strong interest in the player from Saudi Arabia, with their clubs Al Ahly, Al Nassr and Al Qadsiya having expressed interest in him and potentially willing to pay up to £34 million, which is a lot of money for a 32-year-old, but I still think we could get more money out of the Saudis for him. Interesting, isn't it? I wonder, there were some other reports yesterday that Thomas Frank would be willing to let Son Heung-min go. I think basically that, for me, just tracks with, I think Frank would just want to be happy with whatever Son Heung-min wanted himself. So if Sonny comes in and says, I want to explore another challenge, then I think Frank will say that's fair enough, as long as we get the money. But if Sonny says, I want to see how it is on the pre-season tour, and he really likes it under Thomas Frank and sees opportunities for him to start and score goals again, lots of goals, then maybe he would want to stay, and I think Thomas Frank would probably be open to that as well. So let's see what happens. Tom Barkley came out and said over the last 24 hours or so that Spurs, despite all reports, are not looking to sell goalkeeper Guglielmo Vicario, or as I always call him, Guillermo Vicario, but I get told off, so I'm probably pronouncing it wrong whichever way. As I mentioned on my live yesterday, big clubs apparently willing to spend upwards of 60 million euros for Lucas Bergvall, but not only are Tottenham not interested in selling him, but the player has no interest in leaving Spurs whatsoever. The Premier League fixtures came out yesterday, as you all will know by now. Burnley at home in the first game of the season. Everton at home on the last day, so starting and finishing at home. I like that. Our second game is away at Man City. I don't think that's a bad time to play Man City, considering they'll have been at the Club World Cup, and hopefully they'll go quite deep, and therefore all their players will be there till mid-July. Then they'll need at least 3 weeks off. And quite often in the early season games, you see those clubs who have had players, usually at international tournaments like World Cups or Euros, they don't play them for the first few games. So it could be a good time to play Man City. Our first few games look like this: Burnley, Man City, Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton, and Wolves. There is a period, I think maybe in November, certainly later in the season, where we play Chelsea, Man United, and Arsenal in 3 consecutive games. It feels like that always kind of happens. And then, for those of you who weren't watching my live yesterday, I did mention this, but here are the fixtures that Tottenham have after the Champions League games in the first stage of the Champions League. Brighton away, Leeds away, Everton away, Man United home, Fulham home, Nottingham Forest away, Burnley away, and Man City at home. So a bit of a mixed bag there. You really want to be at home after those European games, but 5 of those 8 are away, so a bit unlucky on that front. But they're not the hardest games of all time. I guess the hardest ones, Man City at home and Man United at home. But Man City will also have had a Champions League game. So that's, that's okay. That could have been worse as far as I'm concerned. Some quotes have come out from Luka Vuskovic, who of course is going to join us finally this summer, having been on loan at Westerlo since we signed him. He said this: Tottenham is amazing. The stadium is unreal. Everything is state of the art. The training centre has like 100 pitches. It's a completely different world. I haven't trained with the first team yet, but soon I'll meet all the players. He sounds like a kid in a candy store. He says, my defensive role model is Josko Gvardiol. He's a beast. I've never seen anything like it. He's like an alien. We have similarities, but when you see him play, you get scared by how good he is. We work well together. He handles things and I help him. As far as I'm concerned, now that Luka Vuskovic has kind of been called up and played his first minutes for the Croatian international first team at the age of just 18, that shows how talented he is and how much potential they see him having. If he can learn as much as possible from Man City's Josko Gvardiol, then that will only improve his chances of becoming an absolute star for Tottenham Hotspur. Be really interesting to see how he does in pre-season. I'm very excited to see it. Some other transfer talk. Sheffield United are considering a swoop for Tottenham duo Alfie Devine and Ashley Phillips. Be interesting to see whether that's a potential loan deal or whether they're looking for something a little more permanent. Now, I did cover on my live last night the first Thomas Frank interview. I kind of watched it whilst you guys were on the live with me, but I've got the quotes here. I'll just read them out. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and as I go along, I'll tell you what I think about it. He said, the feeling of being the new head coach is extraordinary. I'm really looking forward to this massive challenge together with a lot of good people. I only heard good stuff about all of the people here, the training ground, the players. Good squad, exciting, massive club. I think massive potential. So just super, super excited. One thing I really got from Thomas Frank, and he did mention this in an interview he did while he was still at Brentford. He talked about only wanting to join a club that had, in his words, low-hanging fruit, by which he meant a club where he felt he could make improvements relatively quickly as soon as he joined. And he clearly sees Tottenham as that. A massive club that currently is not reaching its full potential. Now, of course, in Europe, in the Europa League, we won that trophy and that was massive. But he sees Tottenham as a bigger club than even winning the Europa League. And he mentions in a later quote that he wants us to become serial winners. And that's something he's going to try and drag into the club. He talked about his interview process and how he's got on with the hierarchy at Spurs. He says they've done a very, very good process. I would say Daniel Levy and Vinay and Johan Lange. I've had very good conversations and meetings with them where we discussed everything in depth, details about club structure, processes, and of course I came with my view on things and how I saw it and my ideas and the way I want to do things and how I try to build a team and the club. And of course, it's not just me. I love that clearly Thomas Frank, he's not going to be a yes man. He's got a very intense, single-minded way of wanting to do things, and that's not just in mind of the team on the pitch, but also how he wants to grow the club in terms of culture. Everybody who supports Brentford that I've listened to on podcast, everybody who talks about Thomas Frank, who knows about him, journalists, they all talk about how culture is absolutely massive with him. Family, culture, the no dickheads policy, and it's exciting to know that he's going to bring that in. He goes on to say, I think it's very important to say that yes, the head coach is an important person, but if I don't have good people around me, it's impossible. You can't do anything alone, in my opinion. If you want to do something quick, you can go alone. If you want to do something big or achieve something big, you go together. So it's definitely a thing about doing things together, me, staff, and players. I did talk about on the live yesterday, was that like an accidental dig Ange Postecoglou, who of course goes into managers' jobs without a backroom staff and kind of brings them in as a secondary requirement. I don't think that was a purposeful thing from Thomas Frank, but it is interesting how he talks a lot about the collective, about the group, about everything being together, and not just in terms of his staff and players, but also the fans. And he goes on later to talk about how important it will be to make the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium a fortress, and I love hearing that. He goes on to say, I think the alignment is key from top to bottom, and of course it starts with Daniel and Vinay and Johan and myself, and the more the four of us can be aligned just like a unit, an unbreakable unit, the stronger we will be. There will be ups and downs. I think right now, of course, it's a fairy tale. Everyone is happy. The sun is shining. It's fantastic, but we haven't played a game yet. Hopefully we win a lot. We'll work very hard every single day to make sure we create as many magic moments for the fans and put them together, and hopefully at the end of the season, there will have been a very good season. But the alignment in terms of structure, processes, transfer, squad, playing style, culture, all that is key. Music to my ears. Let me know what you think in the comments. He was asked, of course, about his style of play. He said this, I think in terms of my style of play, I'll explain it a little bit now, but I'd rather show it. You can talk a lot, but I think it's more what we show, what we try to do. But in a few words, the intention is to play aggressive, front-footed football. I know the ethos and the history of the club is massive on exciting, attacking football, and I think there's so much attacking talent in the squad. I'm very excited about that. They've clearly shown over the last 2 seasons that the ability to score goals is fantastic, and I'm very, very in on that. I love a team that is scoring goals. I'm very big on principles. What we do in the final third in terms of creating chances and putting balls in the box, playing in behind and stuff like that, I think it's key. So I just want to build on that attacking football that we already have here in the club. So he doesn't mention being pragmatic, but I think what he's saying is, the building blocks are all there. Scoring goals, not that it's the easy part, but you already know how to do that as a squad, as a team. But now we need to give you the solidity on which scoring those goals can also help you win more games. He went on to talk about taking risks. He says, I'm a big believer. I always say this one line. If you don't take a risk, you also are taking a risk. So I think it's important that we do take risks. A risk is, for example, if we play man-to-man in some situations. The risk is you need to play forward. If you don't risk the ball, you can't create anything. So I'm a huge believer in that. We need to be brave. The players need to be brave when we play, and they need to trust themselves. So I'll do my very best to install that trust and let the players be brave. For me, if they lose the ball by trying, it's never a problem for me. Of course, I can react, in the moment, like if that happens, it's natural, but they still need to do that. And if they don't work hard, I'll struggle more with that. If they do everything they can and they lose the ball when they try, no problem. But it's more if they don't work hard, that's my non-negotiable. We need to take risks, of course, and if we don't take risks, it's impossible to achieve something big. Now, what I took from that, and it's just a tiny thing, is I don't foresee Tottenham having any situations now where we don't have both our wide forwards as well as our fullbacks defending our back post, because Thomas Frank will be in on them saying you need to work hard forward and backwards, whereas Ange Postecoglou was more willing to take the risk at the back post of, let, for instance, Brennan Johnson cheat a bit, not come back and help Pedro Porro, and we might be able to score the other end. I cannot see that happening anymore. I think we will be more solid in those kind of areas. He goes on to talk about the squad he inherits and talking about the senior and young players. I want to talk a little bit about how he talks about developing players. He says, it's always about me. You need to make a team win on a Saturday and on a Tuesday and a Saturday and then on a Wednesday. But it's also about developing the individual player. And that's about me and my staff and the players. So how we work together on a day-to-day basis, because if we lift the players' performance or develop them, the team will grow, perform better, and hopefully have opportunities to win more matches. That to me brings us back to the Pochettino days. He knows that, Frank knows that if he can develop the players individually, then as a team, we will only go on to improve. He talks a lot about the fan base, and like I said, about how we want to make the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, in his words, a fortress. I completely agree with him. I think that's massive. But then what I'm pleased he did as well was he mentioned Ange Postecoglou. He says, huge congratulations to Ange, as well as the club and the team. Ange will forever be a legend at Tottenham, and congratulations to him for that. It's important to stand that we all stand on the shoulders of others. So I'm going in on the foundation that Ange has built, along with his coaching staff, and I'm very humble about that, and I'll do my best to continue the great work that they put in. I thought that was really important that Thomas Frank did that and said that. And I had goosebumps when I was first listening to his interview, and I really like the cut of his jib. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, guys, before I go on to just some of the wide-ranging Premier League transfer news, do give this video a like if you haven't already on YouTube. Press subscribe if you're not already subscribed for daily Premier League transfer news, starting with Spurs, of course. And also do vote for me in that Tottenham YouTube Content Creators Awards. The link is in the description box below. Okay, let's start at Man United. Saudi clubs have now reached out to United to inquire about Jadon Sancho. They're now willing to accept £25 million for him. Of course, Jadon Sancho is hesitant to accept a significant salary reduction, having previously been unable to reach an agreement with Chelsea. So Man United and him are in limbo a little bit. This is another reason why Man United are in so much trouble. They offered so many players too much wages and they can't sell them on. That is a fact. Chelsea will find that as well down the line. Juventus have offered Man United and Arsenal target Victor Gyökeres an £11 million a year contract as they try to beat the Premier League clubs to his signing. Sancho is apparently interested in Napoli, by the way, I should have said that. Over to Liverpool, they are apparently prepared to break the British transfer record to sign Newcastle striker Alexander Isak. There's a video from Isak when he was a lot younger saying he'd love to play for Liverpool, so that could be interesting. Napoli are weighing up buying Man City's Jack Grealish instead of Alejandro Garnacho, but of course they will not match his Manchester City wages. Newcastle are interested in taking Marcus Rashford on loan from Manchester United, although United, of course, would prefer offloading him on a permanent deal, another one on huge wages. Some reports that Saudi Arabian clubs are interested in buying Newcastle's Joe Linton. Arsenal and Villa, as well as Inter Milan and Napoli, have all shown interest in Aymeric Laporte, who's currently playing at Al Nassr and interested in a move back to Europe. Chelsea, of course, retain an interest in Aston Villa midfielder Morgan Rogers because he's young and talented. They've also made contact with Brighton over João Pedro, who I thought was going to go to Newcastle, but now Chelsea, because he's young and talented, are trying to scoop him up as well. And as well as Tottenham, as I mentioned earlier in the video, Chelsea are also interested in Mohamed Kudus, as well as prioritising a move for another wide forward, Dortmund's Jamie Gittins. Over at South Woolwich, Arsenal, just quickly, they're interested in Rodrigo. That's in talks with Benjamin Sesko, but are not willing to pay the 80 to 100 million euro price tag. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching and for listening. Once again, do give me a like, do press subscribe, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday, guys. And I think maybe in the next day or two, we might have ourselves at Spurs another number 9. Come on, you Spurs.